Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me for my second video. I'm very glad to have you here with me. As I told you in the previous video, I'm going to be sharing with you out of the ordinary experiences I had in my childhood. I'm going to start with a ghost I saw with my cousin. Then I'm going to tell you a few occurrences that were out of the ordinary and defy the laws of physics and got us a bit confused when we were children. And also I'm going to share some of the experiences we got from the adults that once we shared and asked around also seem to have similar experiences to ours. So, about this ghost. For the majority of my childhood I lived in this village in my grandfather's land. My dad built us a house at the start of the land while my cousin was living at the other side, and this was connected by a long road which ended abruptly in this big garage entrance, which was more like a storeroom. It has no door, so when you look inside it's absolute blackness, and so she had to go close to that and then go up some stairs on the right. At the time our moms worked at the pizzeria together and they had a lot of night shifts. That night we stayed up at hours watching TV, and when we were tired we said our goodbyes and she left. As I was closing the door though, suddenly there's this maniac knocking on the door. I'm a bit startled but not worried. We lived in a very safe village, plus we're inside this land which has the gate. I opened the door and my cousin is all out of breath and I'm like, what happened? She said, and she says, I saw a ghost. I didn't believe her. I'm like, what? You didn't see anything? She's like, yes, I did. Go and see it. I'm like, yeah, I will. So I decided to go and prove to her that she was wrong. So I followed this path from my house all the way down to the road. Halfway across the road, this is when I decide to look down. And when I look down, I see this see-through long thing hovering 1.5 meters from the floor. I freak out. I wasn't expecting this, so I started running back to the house, and when I look back, I see the thing moving closer to me as I'm running away. Of course, we didn't wait for it to catch up. We got inside the house, locked the door, closed the windows, closed the curtains, and got into bed and under the blankets. Because, you know, that's going to keep away the ghost. Somebody pointed out to me that this is like the cliche version of a ghost. And I agree. To be honest, as a child, I probably was exposed to some ghost movies, and the usual type that they like to portray is that, you know, under the sheet, white, kind of see-through hovering thing. What I found out along my studies, my research of other cultures, of other perspectives, people that I've met, what I've come to realize is that when this sort of energy reveals itself, it is filtered through our own lenses of our belief systems. So I met this lady, for example. She's had several of these sort of contacts, but when they appear to her, they appear in the Virgin Mary or some saint that she relates to from her own religion. So I think this is why I saw the shape that I saw. There were 3 key factors around this experience that, for my logic mind, gave it so much credibility that it allowed me to pierce through the limitations of my beliefs about what reality is supposed to be. The first one is that it was a shared experience. Both me and my cousin saw it. The second one is that I didn't believe her, and I actually thought that I was going to prove her wrong and we'd have a laugh about it. The third one relates to the movement that I observed from the moment that I saw it to the moment that I looked behind me while I was running. From what I can understand, and my family, there's no possibility somebody could have faked that visual effect. So my cousin and I, we fancy ourselves as being a sort of little detective. So once this occurrence happened, we went around to our family and friends, the adults in our lives, for answers, and we asked, has anybody died here? Has anybody experienced something similar? Like, what is this? And we actually found out that one of our aunts had seen her grandfather when she was 3 years old. We didn't stop there though. We had this tutor. She helped us 1 time a week, and we respect her and looked up to her. So we went to ask her as well. And she related loads of different interesting experiences of herself, her husband, and people that she met in her life. The two that stuck the most with me were when she came into the village, when she moved there, she saw this big round disc, orangey, hovering over the village. When I spoke to her later in life and asked her about this, if she did remember, she said, oh, it's just probably the moon. This is a phenomenon that does happen to most people. You know, you'll have some paranormal experience, something out of the ordinary, but you're so indoctrinated and so used to living within the limits of your own belief box that you actually start doubting what you saw, and at some point you just stop believing it altogether. Another that she told us about was when her husband was staying at this old hotel, and once he checked into the room, he started hearing a lot of noises on the apartment above, and it even seemed like there were furniture being pulled around all over the place. And he went to complain, he went to ask, and they're like, well, there's nobody there, but let's check out, you know, it could be somebody that had broken into the place or something. So they went in there and it was completely empty. So they were very confused and a bit spooked by then. And then when he returned to his room, he found that the noises were back. I just want you to realize that these things happen, and they happen with a lot more frequency than we're being told. If they're happening, if people are experiencing this and it causing questions, we should look at it at least, you know, give it some benefit of the doubt. The strange occurrences that I experienced that defy the law of physics were quite funny, although a bit spooky, and I thought I should include them because they were, even though they're not extraordinary, I know they stuck with me and also added to my questioning of what is reality. As children, we love to play with water balloons, so we got a few filled up, and our plan was, let's throw this at the neighbor's wall, which was the wall that made like this division to our land. And this wall is those, you know, like they're kind of spiky towards the outside, like they put too much ink that they, it's just kind of a style, decorative sort of thing. They're very spiky. And from our previous experience, they would always blow when we threw them at this wall. However, during this day, like we threw so many, and none of them was breaking. Only when they hit the floor below. And we just stared at each other, kind of, okay, this is strange, but you know, it's getting kind of boring because we do want them to burst, so let's move somewhere else. After this, we went to next to this really big tree we had close to our house, and we started throwing it there. But the same thing happened. We kept throwing it at the tree, and we could see branches sticking out that were definitely sharp enough to burst these balloons, but they would hit them and hit another, and only burst when they fell to the floor. And you know, by then we decided it's enough with water balloons for today, and we found some other activity. The second event, it was around the same time with this same tree that I mentioned in the occurrence before. So we're just playing outside on the street. It's already dark, probably just waiting for our parents to call us, and suddenly a part of this tree starts shaking. But imagine, it's like this huge tree and only a portion of it is shaking, but shaking a lot. And well, first we look around to see, like, is there any winds? Maybe there's a breeze or like a gush of wind that passed by and it was shaking it, but there was no wind whatsoever, not even just for a moment to check it, like during that period. And it continued shaking for all this period of time. We also called, like, to see, it could have been a dog. It had to be a big dog though to shake that area of the tree, but nothing answered. As well, there was nobody else there that was around us that could be doing that. So at some point we did freak out and we just went home before even our parents called us to go back. All of these experiences really ignited my curiosity. They were out of the ordinary, out of the boundaries of what people told us to expect reality would act as. And for me, it really put me down on this road. It brought upon this asking, this wondering about the nature of reality. And as I later found out, when you ask the questions, the answers come. So this was just the beginning of my journey, but man, I was in for a ride. In my next video, I'm going to tell you a bit about my adolescence, the depression I was in, all the documentaries that I saw and expanded my perspective. Also some books that came across my way that really expanded my perspective on what the nature of reality actually is. And finally, the first strongest level of awakening I think I felt was like a big stepping stone for me. Watching this documentary on quantum physics, and I really highly recommend it. When you speak about quantum physics, people get very intimidated because it's based on mathematics, which you lose most of the people, and it just seems very complex. In this documentary, they explain it in a very succinct and concise way, also using a lot of examples, visual aids that we can connect with and understand what they're trying to tell us about. I remember after watching that documentary, I was just so happy. It was like a big pause from depression all of a sudden. I just looked around like everything is magical. So, a question for you guys out there, as I would really love to know more perspectives and your views and your opinions and experiences. Has any of you had paranormal experiences or know somebody that has? And if you do and want to share, please write in the comments below. I would really love to hear your stories. Thank you so much for your time and attention, for being here with me, and for being open to listen to a different perspective and challenge your own beliefs. I wish you a wonderful week full of positive surprises. Atma Namaste.